everyone, welcome back to 30 Art Circle. As always, Aram is here with me, and we're here to review the squads that have been announced for the series between South Africa and Pakistan. So it's a all format series, going to be very exciting, and obviously we have to start with the tests because that is the all important format if we look at the tradition. So Aram Shaheen Shah Afridi has been sort of taken out of the squad. In fact, he's not been picked. He was taken out from the England series as well. I find it to be ridiculous because your premier left arm fast bowler has to play in Test cricket, right? You can drop him, and what they're saying is that they're doing this for workload management. I get that. I get workload management, but then he doesn't have to play in the useless T20s that are happening. Please.
Yeah, it's baffling to see, to be very honest, because we've always talked about Pakistan cricket not being able to manage their players, but this just adds to it rather than going against it, because they're even doing a bad job right now. Because even if you consider for a moment that they're doing this for workload management, the question that you made, why is he the part of such a useless T20 side? Because you don't have anything to look forward to for next year. So why are you not having him? When does Pakistan play South Africa in a test game in South Africa? When was the last time Pakistan played? It's not every day, or even every year you play in South Africa. It's one of the biggest series that we've had, and leaving out your premier fast bowler, it's I find it highly surprising. And the fact that a captain like Shan Masood, who we've talked heaps and loads about him, that he has often made the right calls, the correct judgments. Maybe he was outvoted at this point after the change in the selection setup, as well as the team management. But I can't say he should have put his foot down at that moment and said, I need Shine Afridi. But there's a lot of questions surrounding the team selection, especially in the test game. How will they be making the combinations and all? But initially, dropping Shine FC, I went through the list twice just to see whether I was reading it incorrectly, and maybe his name is somewhere around there, but it wasn't there. So you never know. Anything can happen when it's about Pakistan.
Yeah, I don't think Shan Masood had any kind of authority. This has been declared by PCB themselves. It was the limited overs coach, not the selector, not the chief selector, limited overs coach who was making this call. So yeah, baffling as you said. Uh, I mean, I just can't get over it. Why are we playing him in the T20s? Okay, I get it. You want to prepare for Champions Trophy, just play him in the ODIs then. But yeah, just staying with the bowling attack that we have. Mohammad Abbas has made a comeback after performing well in the Qaid-e-Azam Trophy. Took 31 wickets, and he's been doing really well in county cricket in the last 2 to 3 years. But do you think that we should have gone back to him? I know his dropping wasn't probably the right call, but do you think his comeback is the right call?
Yeah, it's a pretty dicey call for that matter, because I think they've tried to play it safe, because a bet, maybe it's not a fair comparison to make, but the call that they made with Sajid and Noman coming back in the previous test series, I felt that it doing good for them. Maybe they've just gone into that frame of mind and thought, okay, we'll do the same with the Pacers, and maybe it will come good at some stage. Taking nothing away from Ahmad Abbas, even at the stage of his career where he is at, and he's done well. He's done the hard yards in the domestic circuit and performed well. So I'm not just talking about him getting into the principle of which the selection committee has made the changes is what I'm talking about right now. But maybe he'll do good. I think they tried to made a combination of sorts where they're mixing somewhat experience with youth, and because generally speaking, the other pacers, Khurram has had been carrying an injury, and I maybe I remember Zed tweeting about it a while back, a few weeks ago in the domestic game, that he has not come out to ball. So maybe they were concerned about him getting injured, but I saw his name in the list. After that, you have Mir Hamza. the bowlers are not that experienced when it comes to international cricket for that matter. So maybe they tried to do something uh, similar to what they did in the game against in the last series as well. So what essentially I feel that they have tried to make safer calls rather than going out in an aggressive fashion in South Africa, where a country, a place, a venue where you need some sort of aggression as a bowling and a batting lineup. Otherwise, the opposition will roll you over and go forth with their.
Probably banking on Mir Hamza's left arm angle, because if we don't play him, then we'll be playing with four right armers. I mean, I can live with that, but Mir Hamza is the only left arm option that we have. But so the bowling lineup that I'm seeing that we might play is Amir Jamal at number 8, and then Naseem Shah, Khurram Shahzad. These three are, I think, locked in. And then it's between Muhammad Abbas and क्या नाम है उसका Mir Hamza. Yeah, it's between these two. But I think if they have selected Muhammad Abbas that specially, they will play him. So then it might actually be between Mir Hamza and Khurram Shahzad, considering if Khurram Shahzad is fit or not. But I think the way Khurram Shahzad has performed, he should be playing. So while there is no left arm angle in this lineup, I think the best course of action is to probably play Amir Jamal, Naseem Shah, Mohammad Abbas, and Khurram Shahzad. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel like तो ये वाली बात के that the dates which the games are going to be played. पहले T20s and then you have ODIs and leading out to the test games. So I feel there's quite some time to वो खुर्रम शहजाद fitness वाली बात. Maybe they're banking on him getting out of, maybe it was a niggle or so they want him to get out of it when they play the games later on. So they are giving him some sort of a time frame to work with. Baki, I agree. It's for me. I think it will be between Mohammad Abbas and maybe Khurram Shahzad, because I don't think they'll go out with an all right arm based attack. Obviously, every bowler has different abilities to bowl. Ami Jamal gives you something with the bat as well. So I don't think they'll be sacrificing that crucial role that he plays with the bat for somebody like playing catering someone like Mohammad Abbas to the left. So I think it will be because it is also a good thing for that matter, because all the 4 or 5 bowlers we have in contention are different types of bowlers. You have Naseem who plays a significantly, maybe they have similar roles, but the type of bowlers they are is quite different and quite unique for that matter as well, because Naseem and Khurram you could classify as someone who is different from an Amir Jamal, and Mohammad Abbas is someone who will essentially they'll be thinking about him playing that Vernon Philander kind of a role which he had developed himself into in the latest part of his career, where his pace sort of dropped. He just went on seam and swing, and maybe that is something they have in mind with Mohammad Abbas for the games. Although there are quite some differences, but apart from that, I for me I talked about who it's going to be in between for me. But I think there is some time remaining between the test games, so I feel they'll be making the decisions as they go along.
I think yeah, that makes perfect sense actually. I don't think the spin department is worth mentioning because they've only taken one specialist spinner, and it makes sense again. They will be playing Salman Aliaga as the spinner, and it's fine I think for South Africa. One final thing that I wanted to discuss with the test squad is the conundrum between Kamran Ghulam and Saud Shakil. Saud Shakil is obviously a vice captain, and both of them have performed really well against England because Babar Azam is making a comeback and he's going to start starting at 4. Shan Masood will be at number 3 as captain. So it's that number 5 spot that is the being fought for between क्या नाम है? I'm really sorry. I'm being bad with names today. Kamran
It's
Ghulam
Saud
and
and
Saud.
Kamran.
Yeah. So I would play Saud Shakil because both of
Yeah,
them have a
I
problem with
agree.
the short ball. But Saud Shakil is the settled player and is the vice captain and has performed more than Kamran Ghulam. But recency bias can probably make Kamran Ghulam as a contender. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I would also, go with Saud Shakil for that matter. Ek he's your vice captain. Not that it plays into the decision, but obviously being the more settled one with the side and Kamran Ghulam, we've seen him, sort of had that his struggles with pace bowling all in all, not just short bowling. But Saud just has his against, short pitch bowling. But Kamran Ghulam obviously has a bit of those. Uh, Even when he played the domestic games, it is quite evident that he has his fair share of struggles with the ball seaming around, swinging around, which obviously most of the batters from Asia have these days. So it's not that much of a decision for me. I would personally go with Saud Shakil because he for me is one of the senior pros on his side. But you never know. Maybe they might. Also, the position suits him better than Kamran Nola. That matter as well because South we've seen him play down the order rather than bringing up someone like Kamran Ghulam who has essentially played for most part of his career in the in the top order or even in the higher middle order. Bringing him towards that part of the innings where he plays at number five. For me, I don't see it happening that much. But maybe because obviously this is an understood fact that you can't drop Babar Azam in South Africa unless it's for an injury. This is the one place where everyone, each one of his critics even want him to play, get back on his form, start making runs because history tells us that he has done pretty good in those conditions. So we're banking on him doing well there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I think Saud Shakil is also someone who has batted number three in domestic cricket, but once again he has more experience at that number five position. Moving towards ODIs, and this is very important because this is probably one of the last series that we're playing. If I'm not wrong, before the Champions Trophy, we have that try series. I think before Champions Trophy, but. I think they've decided that they will stick with seven batsmen and four bowlers wala combination. I think that will bite us bite us in the back at the very integral moments during the Champions Trophy. We won't realize the mistake that we're making before the Champions Trophy because it's going to work out because that is how luck works for us. But yeah, I still think that I don't know what Arafat Minas has done wrong to not be even in the squad. So yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree and echo your thoughts on this because I've always been a huge Arafat Minhas supporter. Even when the days when Multan Sultan benched him in the PSL, I was the first one to talk about it. That why isn't he playing in the 11? And the way he's played throughout this past these past couple of months has even further brought up his case for him being selected into the national side, and I feel that he's a big missing. Also, the fact that you thought about the four pacers and a part-time spinner along with the batters wali baat. So I feel I agree with you that this is coming back to bite us later on. Uh, uh, us not having that that spin all rounder option other than Salman Ali Agha will essentially haunt us for the time to come. But I feel this sort of a strategy might just work in countries like South Africa. Maybe they're trying to do this just because they're taking this a series at a time rather than focusing on the bigger picture, which is the Champions Trophy. But you never know. Pakistan has been able to do stuff like this against Australia and Australia. So maybe this would work in a country like South Africa. But because I've always felt that reading the conditions well is something that uh, Pakistan needs to learn. And considering the fact that Rizwan is the captain, he might be getting the extra bit, 10%, 15% out of your players who we hadn't seen earlier on, especially when it comes to those part-time bowlers. We have seen how he has used Saim Ayub as well in the past couple of games, as well as we know how Salman Ali Agha has brought control to the bowling line. So I feel that maybe he might be able to cover up that missing link by his tactical steps. But I think in the longer run, this won't be a sustainable thing to do when it comes to team selection.
yeah, again, you can cover up these things through tactics and basically going for the kill, the thing that they did in Australia. You can do these things, but uh, but it is not sustainable, as you said. You will always not be successful uh, going for the kill. But yeah, finally, I think the batting lineup again. It's only about the combination, not about the personnel. But I still feel that if even if they're going with seven batters, they need to have two power hitters at six and seven instead of having that one extra anchor that they have at number five. So they have Tayyib Tahir and Kamran Ghulam fighting for that spot. Again, I don't really know with Tayyib Tahir has that short ball wala problem, but they replaced Saud Shakil because of that problem, and then they brought in Kamran Ghulam. That's exactly the same thing. So I don't know what they're trying to do there. Salman Ali Agha at six, again one spot down. Irfan Khan Niazi at number seven, also one spot down. Mm, I'm not very happy, and I don't expect much, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. By expecting wali baat, you can never expect anything from Pakistan cricket. We talked about right on this podcast before the Australian series, but it eventually worked out for us. वो वाली बात, keeping that aside, I agree with you that I'm also not comfortable with having this sort of a lineup where you're playing your number six batter at number seven and your number five at number six and playing two anchors in the middle. But I think Tayyib Tahir ka role will be quite interesting to see how. So we know how he plays, but how will he be used as well? For that matter, in the middle overs, because if you look at him, he's not sort of a player who will get into that pressure and start defending and play a lot of dot balls, unlike a few other players that we've seen. Even Kamran Ghulam for that matter does this quite often, but you see him being a busy cricketer. But when you talk about that place where you need a power hitter at number 6 and number 7, while you're playing Salman Ali Agha a spot down from where he needs to be preferably at, so I feel that this just messes up the entire team combination. And um, you don't know, you know one thing for sure, that your top four is fixed, and number six and number seven is also fixed after you've seen how Salman Ali Agha and your Irfan Khan Yazi will be playing. So the point about number five, which I'm trying to make, is uh, I think they'll go with the safer bets initially. Maybe play Kamran Ghulam, and obviously talked about South him being replacing South Shakil, who has that problem with the shorter ball, and we talked about how for us maybe we'll go with South in the Test series, where the shorter ball plays a much greater role than in the ODIs. But it's just quite a lot of confusion right now because basically I feel that them announcing the squads like this altogether is sort of saving them from a lot of criticism right now, because people are deflecting their attention on different things on all three squads, because we know people are not talking about the test squad that much. Obviously we talked about it because we feel that in the priority list it is definitely going to be ODIs and test ahead of the T20s, because you when you look ahead you don't see much to look ahead later on in the years. So, but considering the fact that the Champions Trophy is approaching and you need a settled 11 or a settled squad before that, I feel that they will be experimenting just with Tayyab and maybe Kamran Ghulam for that number five spot. Otherwise, I feel that they might have had made up their mind, as you talked about that combination of seven batters and four bowlers, along with Salman Ali Agha being your other option, and maybe Saim Ayub being there. So I think combination यही रहेगा, but just the question marks surrounding how will they, which strategy will they be going for? Because playing, someone like uh, Tayyab Tahir will be slightly a bit proactive approach for that matter, because he's he's an accumulator but a quick one, rather than playing someone like Kamran Ghulam, who we feel is a much more defensive option for that matter at number five, not his the position that he would prefer to be at. So I feel ये वाली बात भी है.
Okay, मुझे अभी अभी ख्याल आया बिल्कुल, but I can now understand what they are trying to do with the 7-7 is to 4 wala combination, because Australia went into the World Cup 2023 World Cup in India, with obviously the conventional six batters, one all rounder, and four bowlers. They used to play Green or Stoinis in that lineup. But then in the middle of the tournament, they went towards this route where they were playing Marnus Labuschagne at number five, and obviously Maxwell and Inglis followed him. And yeah, so I can understand what they're trying to do, but the difference is that Australians had Mitchell Marsh, no, big part, Travis Head, David Warner, and Mitchell Marsh at 1, 2, and 3. So they used to give them quick starts, and if they got out early on, so Steve Smith and Marius Labuschagne were the people who stabilized that lineup. So maybe if we have Fakhar Zaman, okay, another miss from the squad. Fakhar Zaman, if he comes back and partners up with Saima Yu, maybe then this sort of thing might work. But again, we might have to rely on Salman Ali Agha with the ball, and we all know that he's not Maxwell.
But just playing devil's advocate here, my question to you would be, uh, you'll open with Fakhar and Saim. So what about Abdullah? Because he hasn't done that much wrong for me to drop him right now from the ODIs. So obviously you're going for the more attacking option, but do you think they'll place him in the 11 with each of the batters following him down? Yeah, because you made the comparison with Australia. Why I think that does not apply to a team like Pakistan is because the clarity in the roles being defined in the Australian setup is quite different from what we have in Pakistan. You know the type of players Maxwell is, the type of player, even for that matter, Labuschagne is. So they know they had that combination of Smith and Labuschagne in the middle order, surrounded by those highly flowing and quick batters who had great strike rates. Even and you talked about the top order being the number one, two, and three being having a slightly better strike rate than the others, and also being giving runs for the longer run, not just playing fast but giving great starts to them. तो आई थिंक वो वाली बात है पाकिस्तान में. सो इसका क्या करेंगे?
Yeah, absolutely. I do understand what you're trying to say. And फखर जमान को भी अगर हम देखें तो it's not like कि वो बिल्कुल ही explosive होता है ODIs में. He will have to change himself थोड़ा सा and be like how he was against New Zealand in the World Cup. But the idea is that he has it in him to be like that, right? Now, Abdullah का यही मैं कहूँगा कि maybe he goes out of the lineup. I know he's done really well, but when there's so much competition, you have to make those kind of calls. Or maybe he can start in at number 4 with Rizwan going at 5, because Abdullah is a very capable middle order batter as well, and the way he's performed, and we all know that Kamran Ghulam and Tayyib Tahir don't have the ODI performance behind their back, and Abdullah has. So maybe he can start at number 4, and Rizwan can go at number 5. Again, a lot of things to do, but there's just a lot. We just it's just going to make things very complicated. The solution would be to just have a proper number 7 all rounder, spin bowling all rounder.
I think I would, the call that you made right now of Abdullah playing at number 4, I don't dislike it that much. Obviously, it will be a bold call to make just before the Champions Trophy in a series like this, or even going forward. But it may turn out to be the right call, or it may not. We never know. But it could be a call in the right direction because we know the ability that Abdullah has. Maybe he would fare good at number 4, but I think it will be it a बहुत बड़ी call है for someone like, for people like the ones who are in a management right now to make, or even for that matter, Rizwan to make at this stage of when he's quite new to the captaincy career. So itna, I don't think they'll take the risk. They'll go with the settled lineup. Maybe Abdullah drops out if Fakhar comes back. We've talked loads about why we need Fakhar Zaman back into the Pakistani setup for the ODIs right before your premier tournament that you're hosting. So वो तो हमने बात कर ली है. Obviously we want him there, but I don't know whether he comes back or not.
I think he will, but let's just see. Moving toward T20s, we've given a lot of time to ODIs, as we should, because that is, I think, at this point, the most important squad. I mean, Champions Trophy might not happen though, So that there's a lot of clouds over that thing as well. But yeah, what are we doing in T20s? Because we have Rizwan and Babar, we're sticking with them. We have Omer bin Yusuf now batting at number three, and Usman Khan number four again. Four to five openers in the lineup. Salman Ali Agha at number six in T20s, which is the most ridiculous thing. Once again, I don't know why he is even there in the T20 squad. I think Salman Ali Agha should only be in the T20 squad if none of the other people that I've mentioned are there, because and then he can sort of play the kind of role Dinesh Ramden used to play in 2016 World Cup, basically being the being a floater, and if situation gets tough, he can come in, but then otherwise he can sort of chill in the dugout and captain the side. Or Rizwan, or with other five matter, Rizwan can also do that kind of role. But yeah, your thoughts?
ये वाली बात तो हम बहुत पहले से करें. इवन आई थिंक राइट आफ्टर द 2021 वर्ल्ड कप T20 वाला वी टॉक्ड अबाउट दिस के essentially it needs to be one of Babar and Rizwan to play, but we went on to have as much as four openers playing in 1 to 4, and then coming on later to having 1 to 5, having five openers playing over there. And right now we're looking at probably an 11 where you have the top six batters, all of them being opening batters. So it just talks about how ridiculous this has turned out to be for our side. That we are playing with six opening batters in the top six with no roles being defined. Essentially, we're slotting everyone there is who has scored runs into wherever you are finding space. So it does not, it can't make, you can't make it make sense even right now what they're trying to do. But considering the fact that we're not closing into any world tournament that is in the format, so I feel that they have a bit of leeway there. They're trying to give chances to batters. Maybe it's sort of what they're hoping is naturally someone drops out or someone gets into another position, starts playing that role, which is quite unlikely for a game like T20 where you need to have specific skills that help to develop the game for a particular spot. So I won't give it much thought right now. I would just let them do their thing, whatever they want to do. Go with eight openers for that matter. Even lesson down on your bowlers, but I won't give it much. The only good thing for me is that seeing Jahandad Khan in there, I've always felt that he might be developed into a good role there. Maybe the role that Marco Jansen plays for South Africa. I've always felt that that sort of a role might be given to him. Have something to do with the new ball, and maybe do something with the bat as well. I think he's quite handy with the bat. Obviously, you could argue that it's quite a difficult comparison to make, but the role that I'm talking about. I think it may be something that he may be developed into later on. I've always liked him when he played for the Lahore Qalandars, and I feel that if he's worked on well, he may give us good results.
Yeah, so I never thought that after the 2024 World T20 World Cup, we will regress even more. And actually, Christian's press conference after the India game was a glimmer of hope. But we all know what happened there. So I know there's no T20 World Cup coming, and we can obviously make the reforms after the Champions Trophy. But it just breaks your heart to see Pakistani lineup being like that. A side which was probably the most modern side which won the 2009 World T20 World Cup, being like this. But yeah, it's really ridiculous. And then added on to that, Shaheen Shah Afridi and Naseem Shah, they both are playing this. Wait, is Naseem Shah playing? We have to check. I don't want to. Okay, Naseem Shah is not there, but again, Shaheen Shah Afridi is there, which is again very ridiculous. But yeah, uh, what do you think?
I think they've randomly, dropped out one bowler from each format and called it, workload management. That is what they've done. They've not considered the fact which bowler suits in which format, and resting someone. I could get behind Naseem Shah not playing the T20s. I don't mind it. But Shaheen not playing Test is something that we question, we often question, and uh, maybe there's some thought behind giving him time off the red ball for him to focus on the white balls in the ODIs against for the Champions Trophy coming up. But maybe it's all about the thought process. There are several things to consider. Uh, we have our own thoughts. We feel that he needs to play the Test series. But Naseem ka, I can get behind him not playing T20s. For me, it does not matter that much because we talked about वही वाली बात पे, nothing to look forward to. But there is always, the element of winning as a team in all formats because it creates momentum, it instills confidence into a team and all the members, especially when you have players who are all format players. So it instills good amount of confidence in them when they will be leading on to the next format or the next games.
Yeah, of course, Asim Shah doesn't have to play T20s, and it is the right call, of course. But yeah, this part is sort of about both T20s and ODIs, and I basically want to touch on Sufyan Muqeem's rise. We all know that he had that sort of talent in him, and the way he's bowled in Australia, and then following that performance in Zimbabwe as well. I think he is probably being seen as the number one spinner for the Champions Trophy now, and Abrar Ahmed being the backup spinner. I know we all thought that Abrar Ahmed should be the number one spinner, but I can get behind Sufyan Mukim being the number one spinner.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that we all, as you talked about it, we knew that the amount of potential he has in him, especially the X factor that a left arm Chinaman spinner ball brings into your side. That is something that we all can get behind, and he has done pretty good as well. It's not that he's an okayish bowler. He has made the performances in Australia we saw, and currently in Zimbabwe. So I agree him being the lead spinner when the time comes for the Champions Trophy, but he needs to get good amount of game time for that, which I would want to desperately see happening, but I can't see it happening right now, considering the team combination they're working with. But I would go play him over Abrar even for a game or two when the time comes. And if pitches support, maybe you could go with potentially two spinners and the third one being Salman Ali Ava. But it's a hunch for most. But I think that conditions will depend. But I would go with I agree with you that Sufyan Mukim needs to be at the number one priority right now.
Yeah, so that was 30 yard circles review on Pakistan squad.